to make this LOL dress, I'm going to be using a 2mm hook and 2 different colours of embroidery thread. And you're going to need scissors and a very small button for the back of the dress. And I'm going to make the top of the dress in this shade of blue. So to start off the dress, make a slip knot, like so, and chain 13 chains. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 11, 12 and 13 chains. And for the very first row, you're going to do 1 single crochet into each chain along, skipping the first chain on the hook. So into the second chain, you're going to do 1 single crochet. It can be quite tricky because it's so small. And 2 and 3, and you're going to end up with 12 single crochets on your first row. So coming near the end of the first row, 11 and 12. To start your second row, chain 1 and turn your work, and you're going to do 1 single crochet into the first 2 stitches. So 1 into the first one, 1 single crochet into the second one, like that, and then you're going to chain 3, 1, 2 and 3, and this basically is the arm, the hole for the arm. You're then going to skip 2 chains, and into the third chain along, you're going to do 1 single crochet, like, whoops, 1 single crochet, and then do 1 single crochet in the next 3 stitches. So 1, 2 and 3, and so you should have 4 single crochets along the front of the dress. So along here, 4 single crochets at the top, and then you're going to make another armhole. So chain 3, 1 and 2 and 3. Skip 2 stitches for the other armhole, and you should have 2 stitches left, and do 1 single crochet into each of those last 2 stitches. 1, and the last one might be a little hard to see. 1 and 2, and that is your second row complete. Okay, now they are very tiny, so it should look like that there, and you have your 2 armholes. So at the end of row 2, chain 1 and turn your work. And this is where I'm going to start increasing. Into the first stitch of the previous row, I'm going to do 2 single crochet, 1 into the same stitch and 2. Into the next stitch, 2 single crochet, 1 and 2. And that should bring you to the armhole. Into the armhole, I'm going to do 3 single crochet, 1 and 2 and 3. And now we're along to the front of the dress. So for the first single crochet of the dress, I'm just going to put 1 single crochet, 1. And into the next 2 single crochet, I'm going to put 2 single crochet. So in the next one, 2 single crochet, 1 and 2. And into the next one, 1 and 2. And into the last one at the front of the dress, I'm going to put 1 single crochet. And we're now on to the second armhole. Put 3 single crochet into the armhole, 1, 2, and 3. So in the last 2 stitches, you're going to put 2 single crochets in each stitch, 1 and 2, and in the last stitch, 1 and 2. So at the end of this row, you should have 20 stitches. Now at this point, I'm going to change the colour of the dress. So what I do when I'm cutting the wool is I chain 1 with the thread and cut it, and I pull that through and just pull that tight. Now I'm going to change over to the yellow embroidery thread. To add the yellow thread, insert your hook into the last single crochet and pull your thread through and chain 1 like that, and we can cut them off at the end. Now for the next row, I'm going to do 1 single crochet into each stitch across. So into the same stitch as the chain 1, I'm going to do 1 single crochet, and just get that out of the way. 1 single crochet and 1 single crochet into each stitch. So 2, 2. I'm now on my last stitch, 20. Your dress will start to look like this. Now, just to make this nice and tidy, I'm going to tie these 2 together and cut the thread. For my next row, I'm going to chain 1 and turn my work. Now I'm going to start doing the shells of the dress. So for the shells, I'm going to be using double crochet. Into the second stitch from the hook, I am now going to put 5 double crochets all into the same stitch. And again, they're quite tricky because it's so small. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, all into the same chain. I'm going to skip 1 stitch and I'm going to slip stitch into the next stitch, like so. I'm going to skip the next stitch, and into this next stitch after that, I'm going to put 5 double crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. To make your next shell, I'm going to skip a stitch, and into the next stitch I'm going to slip stitch. I'm going to repeat that right across the dress. So skip 1 stitch and do 5 double crochet into the next stitch, skip 1 stitch and slip stitch into the next stitch. So I've now come to the end of the row, and you should have 1 stitch left, and I'm going to do 1 single crochet into the last stitch. Okay, and then turn your work. Now for the last row of the dress, just to make it a little bit longer, I'm going to chain 3, 1, 2, and 3, and into that single crochet of the last row, I'm going to do 2 more double crochets. 1, and 2. So the beginning of this row, that is the same as half a shell. And what you do is you slip stitch to the top of the third double crochet of the shell beside it, like that. So you slip stitch to the top, and then in between these two shells, in this space here, where the slip stitch is, you're going to do 5 double crochets. 1 and 2, 3, 4 and 5 to create another shell. So this will be a full shell. And you're going to slip stitch into the third double crochet of the next shell, like that. Okay. And into the next slip stitch space between the two shells, you're going to do 5 double crochet. 1, 4 and 5, like so. And again, you're going to slip stitch to the top of this shell, which is the third double crochet across of the previous round, and you just continue this pattern of doing 5 double crochet into the slip stitch space of the two shells, slip stitching to the middle double crochet of this shell, 5 into this one, slip stitch, and I will meet you back here at the last shell. So I'm nearly at the end of this row, so I'm just doing my last double crochet into the chain 3 space between the last two shells, and I'm going to slip stitch to the top of the last shell, the middle one, and into this stitch, this tiny little stitch here at the beginning of this shell, I'm going to do three double crochets, and it's basically going to be half a shell. 1, 2 and 3. Okay, like that. And basically that's your dress nearly finished. Okay. Now I'm going to need to create a buttonhole. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to chain 1, and into this stitch I'm going to do 2 single crochets along it into the actual stitch. So 1 and 2, and into this gap where the colours join I'm going to do 1 single crochet, and then I'm going to chain 5. 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5, and I'm going to slip stitch back into that gap. Slip stitch like that, chain 1, cut your embroidery thread, pull the thread through like that, and then weave this piece of thread in along here. Okay, that's weaved in, and basically that will make a buttonhole. So your dress will look like that when it's finished. And so if you put your dress onto your LOL doll, like that, and so your button will be here, and it kind of crosses over at the back, and you just put your button where your buttonhole is, and that is what your LOL doll dress will look like.